Hey guys, this is the same video I made yesterday, it's just a different ticker. It's a CRBP. Um, Hide clear out short trap. It's the same short trap. So I was actually not interested in shorting this simply because, um, A, I'm not a big fan of when like you get these $10, $20 stocks that are like we saw this with the D-SPAC stocks in 2023, where we had all these super tiny float like SPAC companies who would go on these insane rigs, right? Go from like $8 to $80 or $100 or whatever. And I was always very put off by how kind of thin and spready these names were, and I tend to kind of avoid it's not that I avoid stocks above $10. I just don't like it when it's very spready. It's kind of moving up and down a dollar at a time. It's kind of hard to get a good read on it. And then also the daily, maybe I could just close this, maybe close this, open this, open this. If you look at the daily before the run, um, we could see that a couple things. We could see that the last time it ran, it actually had some nice continuation, right? It kind of went from like 2 to 6, and then went all the way to 12 on very little volume. Um, but also like the stock was kind of holding up, right? It kind of like had this um, big walk down on the daily, and then it was just kind of it bounced off $3, and then it went to 6, and then it flagged and went to 7, and then it flagged and went to 8. And I'm like, you know what? This doesn't really look like your normal, something like this, Acon, right? Or something like this, PBLA, right? Or something like this, PRZO. You know what I mean? These are kind of like your more low float dailies. But this was like not really, doesn't really look like that in many ways. So, and then I was kind of put off by, I saw it in the pre-market, obviously. I saw it in the pre-market. You're getting this whippy, dollar and a half down, dollar and a half up. The spread's like 30, 40 cents. It's like, I'm like, I'm just going to avoid this because it just seems like a pain, right? It just seems like the type of play where it's just hard to get a good entry. It's hard to make reads. And I wasn't looking at this, right? Actually, I actually wasn't even looking at this at market open. My main watch, I thought PRZO, I thought this was going to soak off the 1 minute 20, and I was long this into 85 cents looking for the rotation, and then I got knifed on. I actually took a loss on this for a couple cents. But then once I got stopped out of that, I went to CRBP, and this is a little bit after that, and I saw the hiding clear out. So what do we see on this, man? We see big volume for the price point, right? This is bullish factor number one. Big volume for the price point, right? This is a 700K candle, and it's trading at $17, $18 a share. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of volume, right? And then we get a high day clear out and an instant dump, right? And I've been talking about this, these instant dumps create all this empty space. Um, on the chart and on the order book, right? This is how the high day clear out short trap tends to work. Get a big dump, let empty space, and then you get some nice consolidation, right? I always like to wait for I said in yesterday's video on whatever that ticker was. Sorry, whatever yesterday's video was. I always like support to get tested at least twice, so you kind of see a slight undercut here in a reclaim. But I actually longed it here. I saw it kind of, um, holding uh, the 5 minute 9 in VWAP, and I'm like, all right. I actually didn't even have my book map open, but if we actually open the book, we can see that it was very strong, right? If we go back to market open, this is your classic bullish book, right? We could see right before they initiated it, they started throwing. So here's your first test of support, your second test of support, and then the multiple layers of bids started to come in. And I didn't even see that. I just saw it holding up, and I'm like, this pattern, bullish factor number two, you got to note what patterns, what manipulation patterns have been working, right? You'll see, a week or two ago, we saw all those 60% fades, right? Um, I had a hard time adjusting to that. I was just not thinking we were going to get 3, 4, 60% fades in a row. And now we got 3 or 4 high day clear out short traps, right, in a row. Um, we got this stock, right? We had EVAX, we had PCSA, and we had RVSN, right? Like all those gave these market open or just after market open high day clear out short traps, right? You get the high day clear out. Now, there was actually some orders here on the ass. Actually, it looks kind of thick, which I don't blame you. I just thought that they were just, this pattern's been working, um, and I might as well throw on some shares, right? And I just happened to throw it on this rotation right here. Somewhere, somewhere in the I had a 750 average ish. So yeah, and it rotated up, and I've been noting it's like okay, the last like couple times this has ran, uh, high day is right here. This is high days over here, and it's on all those plays I just mentioned, PCSA and EVAX, like a lot of those plays were pushing about 30% from whatever the high day was. So I was like starting, I wanted to sell a little bit into the up halt, just because, or like right under it, just because I'm like, all right, just sell into some strength in case it does some like rig dump or something like that. Um, and then once it started pushing more, I'm like, all right, this is about, we're getting about 30% from these highs. That's about how much it's been pushing. Let me sell like the majority of my position, right? I was like, I told my Discord, information down below about the Discord, by the way, but I told my Discord, I'm like, man, I'm only holding on to 15%, but I was holding on all the way up here. And I'm like, I'm going to make more money on this 15% than I'm going to make on the rest of my position. Um, I was really not expecting, up here, I was up like 80, 90%, but it's so hard to hold for 80, 90% because if you're always trying to hold for 80, 90%, unless you have some like amazing thesis why you should do it, or if the book is just crazy strong or something like that, it's really hard to hold for those percent gains, right? Without some bigger thesis behind the move. A lot of times these short trappy moves, will push maybe anywhere between 50 to 15 to 30% above the short trap level, which is usually high day. Um, Before they pull it, right? And that's kind of like the maximum expected kind of push on the vast majority of plays. And when the market's weaker, um, a lot of times you just have to sell into high day because in a weaker market, high day clearouts become a common pattern, right? So I mean, this was a very simple trade. Uh, but I think some of the big lessons on this really is not just the same fundamentals on the high day. I told my Discord, I'm like, high day clear short trap works really well near market open because the volatility is so intense, right? Like, for example, you could say up here, kind of like this is a you can see that, right? Yeah, this is a high day clear out, right? That pulls back. But look at this. Once you get the midday, this is a 2-hour flag that ends up pushing, right? Midday moves can take 2 hours. Sometimes a short. By the way, this few people in my room actually no, they didn't take it, but they did note some painted higher lows here, right? And this kind of bullish rotation, right? It broke this $31 level. So we broke $31, started pushing towards high day, and it rejected and started getting walked down, right? So this seemed like a great little long trap candle to short right here, right? But again, I thought, okay, this is already at like, this is some like $30 biotech crazy daily squeezing stock. Like, I just made the decision not to short it at all. But I was like, oh, that wasn't a bad little trade. Um, but what you always have to remember about these trades is look how walked down this is, right? This is about 20 minutes of down only, right? Just straight walk down, lower lows, lower highs. And this low, at the time, this looks really weak, right? It's just maybe something like this. This looks like it's in a downtrend, right? Clear downtrend. Um, but what you have to realize on these strong, kind of manipulated stocks with a lot of volatility is that um, a lot of these times the selling is controlled. And if we look at this ends up being the low of this entire 2 hour consolidation right here. It ends up being the low. They end up squeezing it. Which to me, I just this seemed like a crazy stock, uh, and it just didn't. This is why I was kind of avoiding it short. I'm like, this is kind of a weird play. Just gonna avoid it. Um, I did think what was really interesting was they bid propped it. I will say about bid props, um, you can see the higher lows and higher highs. The bid prop pattern works really well when the closer it gets to high A day, right? I like painted higher lows no matter what. But if you're trying to short near the top and you're trying to short like a bid prop, um, that the closer it's pushing towards the resistance level, the better, right? Like you don't want to be shorting the bid prop down here, really, because you're shorting at 36 and high days at 40, right? You want to be shorting the bid prop, above 38. This is great. This is just taking out every single lower high, and it looks super aggressive, and you can see the higher lows. And you can see right now that this ends up being the top. Um, this just ends up being the top of the move, right? So I thought that was interesting, right? So big lessons is we've been seeing these morning short traps. I've only really outside of a few shorts here and there, I've really only longed past 3 days because shares have been crazy expensive on like every single low float stock, just really expensive shares, and then yeah, I just keep getting this pattern, right? So the high-day clearout works great when it's big volume compared to its price point, right? You got your quick pullback. The chart's kind of there we go. Got your quick pullback with empty space. You got support holding at least I would say 2 times, 3 times here, but 2 times is good. Um, and you got a nice bullish book, right? You got a nice especially when you get the multiple layers of bids coming in. That's really what you want to see. I would have personally probably wanted to see an emptier book to the upside, but the bids here is really the key fact. The bids combined with the volume, combined with the quick pullback, you're getting a lot of bullish factors adding up here. So, um, if you're ever wondering why, there's always stocks that go up. These stocks that go up 100%, 200%, 400%, 500%. Like the thing about a stock, the thing about strong stocks is they don't usually, unless there's some thin manipulated thing, they don't usually just go straight up 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600%. It's usually they go up, they set a structure, they go up, they set a structure, they go up, they do something like that. Which means it's like they have to employ the same tricks over and over again to push a stock, right? Like they have to clear out short traps, right? Because longs are going to sell. When they see the high clear out in the 15, 20% knife, they're going to sell, right? Um, and shorts are going to load in, and it's this constant game of like trapping shorts, shaking out longs, trapping shorts, shaking out longs, doing it over and over and over again. That's usually how stocks keep moving, right? So these patterns, I had a new guy in my Discord room ask me about statistics, and I have nothing against statistics, but the way I always view low float stocks is, um, it really depends on the liquidity. So I'm looking at volume a lot, and I'm looking at the candlestick pattern, right? And I'm thinking about how shorts and longs are positioning themselves, right? And in this context, um, I always say, stocks opening up near the top of the range is very bearish, which is true. But so if this was like Acon and this was opening up here, yeah, I probably would have tried to get shares in, ACON, Acon, and try or PBLA or PZRO, like known low float trash, opening up here, right at the highs at I maybe even shorted straight out the gate 930, 931, right? But I differentiated this stock from those stocks just based on the daily, based on also really just not wanting to trade this spready, 15, $18 stock. Um, so I kind of put this into its own category, and I was able to maintain a bullish bias on it, right? So I didn't really care that the stock was up 100% going into market open, or what was it up? It was up 100, 130%. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, how does the stock push from 130% to 200%? You set a short trap and you squeeze it, right? Right? A stock has to go up 100 before it goes up 200. That's how I always think of it, right? Now, I do value extension, but the way I view extension is like we get one push in a pre-market, two push pre-market, three push, this third squeeze at market open, followed by a fourth squeeze, right? Stocks can only keep squeezing like this so many times, right? Um, so what I'm viewing it as, if I was looking to short this, I'd be like, all right, um, if I was looking to short this, I probably would have been crazy tempted to short this candle. But if not, and or if I took a loss on that, now we're in the next structure, right? We're already past the fourth squeeze. This is the next structure. Then I'm trying to use what I would consider to be bearish manipulation. For example, a bid prop that pushes right towards highs. You know, I'd be trying to look for fake strength where I think it's weak, right? And that's because every structure that gets set, I'm thinking, all right, the odds of them flipping the script, by the way, look at this. Look what they did. So the bid prop initially works. You get an aggressive squeeze. Look at this bullish squeeze, pullback, bullish squeeze, pullback. But like they're doing all these like you could see the volume come in here and here. Like the volume's coming in, the volume's coming in, the volume's coming in. Um, but this just goes to show the more extended something gets, the more likely they are to fake strength. And sometimes they do it like this. They fake strength like here's like one time, two time, three times. They might fake strength three, four, five, six times. And a lot of times that just makes the fade even stronger, right? Because like there's so many longs buying dips, and there's so many shorts who are afraid to hit it, or they're covering, or they're stopping some out, or they're scalping it, and when the liquidity finally leaves the stock, you get price action like this. So, uh, that's really what I have to say about that. Um, I was kind of lucky that something like this was the same pattern at PSCA yesterday, which by the way pumped into after hours into an offering. Just really funny stuff. Classic low float stuff. But something like PCSA, I got pretty lucky in the fact that in the way that um, shares were just too expensive. So I only had my only choice was the long, where maybe I might have tried to take a bearish bias on this push at market open here, possibly, and then CRBP, just based on the daily, based on the price point, based on the spread, I was like, it just turned me off to shorting it. So. Yeah, funny. Crazy expensive shares last 3 days. I've only been longing and overall made a ton of money doing it, so it's been kind of great. It's kind of great to everything's expensive, but I'm paying no money in fees for the most part, and and what do you call it? And making having long patterns that work, right? So I really like these short trap manipulation patterns near the open, right? Kind of like my two favorite longs near the open is either some type of short trap, like HoD Clearout, or, I mean, this didn't work, but I like this weak. You can see that PRZO dumped and they walked it down into the open. I really thought they were going to soak at the bottom of the range here and at least push towards like this lower high or $1 or at least like 95 cents, something like that. It didn't work, but that's really the only other type of long. I like to make longs. Market open longing is great because there's always a chance big volume comes in and pushes. And B, I like longing just like how I like shorting stocks that look really strong. I like the long stocks at key moments like at market open. near its lows where I think they're fake. I think they're faking weakness. Oh yeah, here Acon is an example. Look at this. They walked this down, crazy weak into the open, and then I was actually looking along this, but I just couldn't get a good read on the book or the chart. Like I saw this knife, the $3. I'm like, should I just along the bottom with this knife? And I passed on it. I was like, I don't know about that. I thought the volume was a little. I would have liked the volume to be, maybe 500K, not 200K. Um, but this is a good, this is how low floats trade, guys. You get a crazy, aggressive, weak walk down and weak open. And look, from these lows, it went from 2.6 all the way up to 3.8, right? And that's a pretty big move on the that's a pretty big move on the long side, right? So yeah, this was what I thought PZRO might do at market opens. So what do you call it? I just didn't get this one, but this is what I like to see. I like to look for weakness into open, and then I like to find stocks trading pretty good volume. Um, they have some type of bid support that I can read, so I can catch the manipulated move off the bottom, pushing and pushing up. Besides that, I just have to rely on short trap patterns like this, high day clearouts, where I just know shorts are positioned um, based on the pattern, and then if you get a nice uh, setup, empty space, nice book, you can long it and hope shorts get squeezed, right? Instead of you get squeezed, shorts get squeezed. So it's great. So, anyways, that's my video today. You guys have a good one, and information down below about the Discord. All right, see ya.